Good morning. Good morning. It is 2:45 a.m. I'm on my way to the gym right now. Well, yesterday, like lately, a series of things have happened to me, for me, in my life. Yesterday was just another example of that. We're driving my son who is away. We're driving his truck, and we're running some small errands, not a big deal. And I get a call from my wife. She says the vehicle's overheating. So what do you mean the vehicle's overheating? Said the vehicle's overheating, and I'm stopped. I need you to come over here. Now, I happen to be on the other line on another phone call. She told me where she was at. I said, okay, I'll be there in a minute. When I get there, jump in the car, start it up, starts overheating. But I have to meet somebody at my dad's house up the street so that a tow truck can pick up my other car because it did something before I flew out of town. So I'm having all these car issues on top of being rear-ended by a driver with no insurance. As strange as that sounds in 2019. So by the time we get to my dad's house, the tow truck driver's there. I give him the keys to my car. He takes the car, puts it on the flatbed. He's getting ready to take it to the mechanic. So we're sitting in my son's truck, and I'm just sitting there. I go through the whole truck looking to see, why is this thing overheating? What's going on with it? Well, come to find out, long story short, after just sitting there, really kind of not being too reactive, but more so being in thought, I get back out, look inside there again, and I noticed that the whole serpentine belt had fell off. The whole belt. The whole belt. It runs through the whole front of the engine in order for it to power the fan, power the alternator, power the water pump, power the crank, and it fell off. I mean, completely fell off. I'm thinking, if this ain't something. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about how expensive this is going to be. Where am I going to take it to? Can I even get the work done? Now, I'd already kind of committed to, doing my work that day. So it's not like I had appointments I had to be at, but I had a lot of stuff I needed to do, a lot of clients I need to keep up with, and other properties I had to keep up with, things I had to do. But the more I sat there thinking about it, I could have just very well sat in the car and did everything I needed to do. So I sat there. I started talking to God, and not like verbally out loud, but in my mind, just kind of, like, hey, God, what's going on, man? Why this? Why now? What's going on? Something told me, just be patient. Sit there. In about 30, 40 minutes. Now, mind you, the truck's parked outside of my dad's house, which is where my other vehicle is at, because I had left out of town the next day, literally. So I wasn't in a position to deal with it at that time. So we're sitting out there, and it's about 30, 40 minutes later, an idea came to me, and it said, why don't you just fix it? And I said, well, I don't know what I'm doing. You need tools and this and that. I don't know what I'm doing. He says, no, just go ahead and fix it. So I get back out the car. Some way, somehow, untangle the belt. Examine it, make sure it's not cut, ripped. It's fine. Looks brand new. Still can't understand how a perfectly good belt just pops off. So finally, after looking at some diagrams, doing some YouTube videos, etc., we start to go to work on putting it on. Wild B. I got the belt on. I go over, tell my wife to crank it on, turn it on. It comes to life. Now I stood over to the corner and I prayed to God and I said, this thing better work. This thing has to work. But no sooner than she turned the engine on, this sprocket, this pulley, that the belt sits on, snapped and went flying everywhere. The belt jumped off again. Now I'm really perplexed. Everything looked perfectly fine. I don't understand why this belt jumped off again. And then I start examining the engine and the area where the belt goes on, thinking maybe I had missed something. And I had noticed that the sprocket was broke. So I asked my wife to get on the phone with, I think there was an auto parts store like within 2 minutes of where we were at. I asked her to get on the phone with them and see if they had this particular part. So she gets on the phone with them, talks to them for a second. They say, yeah, we have that part after, explain to them what it was. So yeah, we have that part, come on up. So we go up there and sure enough, I took the old one with me that was broke apart and put it back together the best I could so I could match it up with this new one. And he says, yeah, the reason why this failed probably is because the little sprocket that it rides on, it looks like it's seized up. It looked like it just, it no longer works. I said, all right, great. Paid for it, took it out, went home, went back to the house, got busy. Started putting it back on. Finally, about 15, 20 minutes later, I get the last piece on, got the belt in place. Asked my wife, go start the car again. Starts it up, it sounds great. Test drive it, running great. Looking great, driving great. What was the moral of that story? When it seems like things are just going to hell and you want to become so reactionary that you forget to pray, you forget to wait for an answer, that all you have to do sometimes is just sit back contemplate, engage the mind, and simply give Just give it time. Just give it time. Because sometimes you're going to have to exercise faith when you really want to exercise your fear. Sometimes you're going to have to sit and be still when you want to get up and go try to find the solution so that you can remove the pain. We hate pain. As humans, we have such a low tolerance for pain. We have such a low tolerance for dealing with anything that doesn't go our way. It's never God show me the way. It's always God, can you just take this away? I'll never forget the book of the Bible where Paul was in prison and he was pretty much telling God, like, hey dude, like, why make me go through this? Like, you know my heart, you know who I am. Don't you think I could get a lot more done if you just release me from this? Why I gotta go through this? God's response back was, I am sufficient. The only reason we were able to get all that resolved is because instead of being reactionary, we just waited on an answer to come and was obedient enough to listen to it when it did come, because an answer always comes.